You know, these forms are enough to drive someone nuts anyway. And it isn't just this matter, it's the whole government. Petitions Committee at Parliament is rejecting petitions that shouldn't be rejected. The whole attitude of the local council and the governments is terrible. And all of these websites, they're set up to be non-user friendly and actually a hindrance. And if there's anything worth doing, it's trying to put a stop to this. If you watch the Richard Verb's channel on YouTube, he is kind of really into this, literally just trying to change the whole country, the whole system, because of these political parties that have a monopoly on how they set up the websites and the dynamics of them all. I know for an absolute fact that a lot of the laws and processes and procedures we're being misinformed on them and what we can and can't do. I could go into detail, but I don't need to go into detail. It's true. Just the fact that they're dishonest and they're not truthful, and they try and, because they want to win and they've got their targets and objectives, they're always trying to say that you're wrong, and then they put it in writing, the rules, or these are the guidelines, you can only do this, you can only do that, when that's not actually the fact or case when you look into it intelligently and actually look at the underlying regulations. But anyway, right, objections and supporting comments and applications must be rational, impersonal, and directed principally to the planning issues raised by the proposal. Well, why is it impersonal? It's I am a person. It can't be impersonal because you're a person, and it's called down here. It says your views with a red star next to it. Your views. Well, my views are personal. It's impossible to have views without it being personal. There's a contradiction there straight away. And directed principally to the planning issues raised by the proposal. Well, the proposal raises issues, but when it says issues raised by the proposal, the proposal is there, and the issues are different for everyone involved. There are unique issues. Now, if you want to say issues that the council state or raise, well, likely they will only state or raise issues that they want to. But as for, if you're going to take that as, the issues that it raises by the fact that it exists and that, we've got to either, oppose it, but why, the factors of why we don't want to oppose it are different for everyone. In fact, they are unique and personal. Objection to planning application does not necessarily mean it will be refused. Well, when do they ever? I don't really think they take people's objections into account anyway. I don't think they do. We've heard this with government consultations before. They run a consultation, but, it turns out that they don't really, half of the time, they don't even abide by what the responses are in these consultations, but they just run it, so it looks, they've got to run it to say they're having a consultation to make it look like they're bothered about people's opinion. I would be interested to find out, get free, very, very few people get freedom of information and look at all of the submissions, because it takes an entire council department, to go through them all. So, how we could check whether or not the decisions the council make actually truly do reflect all of the submissions or not, is another matter. The number of comments received, you'll need to include your full name, address, and the reference number of the application you wish to comment on in your representations. Well, To join the website, you've got to fill your details in anyway, and I just logged in by my details that were stored, and I'm logged in now, right? Now, what I don't like about this, and this is, I think that this affects older people as well, particularly when they're using the website, right? It says that any comments made on a planning application will be published in full on the council's website and will be available to view by the public, including any which may help to identify you or your property in line with the general data protection rules. We will remove your name, email address, telephone number and signature prior to publication to be clear in the interests of full and transparent decision making. We will remove your name or email address and phone number, but they'll leave your normal address. Warning, you will need to include your full name, postal address and reference number of the application you wish to comment on in your representations. Well, it automatically fills it in, doesn't it? It's automatically done all that. Comments submitted anonymously will not be taken into account. Well, that is out of all this entire page here, that is infuriatingly annoying, and it drives me up the wall. Because why would you spend your existence living on this planet, breathing, to even log on to this website through the ridiculously insane complicated procedures and protocols, and then proceed to even read all this, let alone add a comment, if it wasn't going to be taken into account? And the fact is that I'm already logged in and it knows who I am. But then later on down here it says, do you wish your comments to be published on the website anonymously? Well, back up there it said that it actually said that if you choose to be anonymous, it won't be taken into account. So why is this a massive thing here? After all these forms and all these fields and all this writing, it has two massive circles with this option here. That makes me think, as a normal average person, that if you select that yes, you want to be anonymous, then it's going to write off your entire submission and make it invalid. Or does it mean back up there that if you're registered anonymously, it won't be taken into account? Not published. It doesn't make it clear. Therefore, if you click yes, is that actually going to automatically disclude your opinion from being counted? Because that's what it makes it sound like. It makes it sound like that up there. And if so, is that not the council kind of like, trying to scare people about whether they want to be anonymous and whether they want their information published on there, and then they get worried and then they decide to go anonymous, and then after all their opinions put, it's not counted. And then instead of having, like 500 objections or 1,000 objections or 5,000 objections, then they only get, 2,000, or instead of 100, they only get 50. And then, there's a lot less, and the council have an excuse not to count it. This is why this is part of the corruption. And it's the same with the petitions committee in Parliament. Oh, well, you can have a petition about that. You can't have a petition about that. When you can. Same with the 15-minute cities. Someone submitted a petition, said, stop 15-minute cities. We don't want them anymore. And the petitions committee at Parliament rejected it, saying, no, we can't stop 15-minute cities. You have to go see the council, petition the council. No, you can stop 15-minute cities by the government changing the law for the whole country so that local councils can't have 15-minute cities. And if they wanted to do anything like that, before they even put the plans in and before they even, went about it, first they would have to actually go around and themselves get, 51% of people to support it, rather than them saying they're doing it, and then you don't really have much of a say in it except a consultation. In fact, it makes you wonder, are these consultations even, this is it. The consultation really is just something so it makes it look like they've asked people about it, and that I think they'll just do what they want to do anyway. It's not like, they're not... The default setting should be that the council can't do anything until it actually gets approval by a certain percentage of the people. Not, we put all these plans through, we're going to do this, and then, we'll just see what the people's opinions are on it, but, we'll do it anyway. So, no, we can't even actually... we can't actually do it until we get this certain amount of support. That's how it should be. And then as for all these clauses they've got, right? Valid planning matters may include, well, it may include, but not, it may include, but really it should say may include but aren't limited to. These are things that may include, but they know legally, the legal department in the council know very well. When you're reading legal documents and they're using words, right, there's can and can't. You can do something or you can't. You may cross the road if you want, but you don't have to, right? But it does not say can include, right? When it says you may cross the road, right, if you want to, right, it doesn't actually say can't. It doesn't say cannot include. So, all you have to do on here when you say, you might have loads of objects on a table, right? Say, you can pick that one up, you can pick that one up, you can pick that one up, right? But it doesn't say you can't pick the other ones up. Conservation of buildings and conservation of the natural environment. Effect on trees and the landscape. Design, appearance and layout. Well, that's the style of it. It says conservation of buildings and conservation of the environment. So that's saving old buildings, right? But then when it goes the design, appearance and layout, right? The design, appearance and layout is, whether it fits with the area or not. But then effect on the character of an area, noise, disturbance and odour, impact on highway safety and traffic, previous planning applications, development plan policies, supplementary planning guidance and other planning policies, government guidance and legislation. Effects on living conditions, for example, the effect on sunlight and daylight, privacy of neighbours and being overlooked. Well, effect on living conditions actually includes, happiness as well and well-being. Particularly when, if you've got an amazing view, or you like looking at things and it's going to make you sad. Particularly if, you see, they try and argue this thing, visibility and views, and they try and say, line of sight's not included and so forth. But what I found recently, where we are, is I'm just, my entire life's been ruined. And I'm now depressed. My entire life is ruined, and I am depressed. And I've actually got doctor's notes for stress for the last few years, because not only have they ruined our views, but I don't even want to look over to where they've built new houses anymore. I'm actually in contempt of them. And you have to be careful. I don't like. I not only dislike it, I vehemently do, and it's making me feeling contempt for my own area. I don't even like my own area anymore with what the council are allowing. It's actually, I would actually say that it's inciting hatred, because I feel like what the council is doing is allowing things that are not only upsetting me, destroying my life and homeland. It's actually, I don't even want to look over somewhere anymore. It's not a matter of taking away your visibility and the things that you like looking at out of your window or seeing. It's actually generating inside me. I don't like my own area anymore. I don't like it. And all I'm thinking is I want to get rid of these things they're putting, and that's all I am thinking about. I cannot stand them. I can't bear it. And we live here. I actually live here first. And what they're doing to us, it's destroying my soul inside me. And when you're born in a place and you've lived there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, like the park that we live by in Murfield, when I grew up there, climbed the trees, it's my soul. I grew up in those trees, I climbed them and sat in them. But they demolished it and built an old people's home when they already had an old people's home there. They could have left those trees there. Who am I? Where did I come from? If you're in Africa, all these rock art and cave art of our ancestors in these remote places in Africa, and if it weren't for those cave paintings and cave art, we wouldn't even know how we turned into humans, how we evolved, how we got here, the birth of spirituality and so forth. And in this thing, it says, don't go into topics that aren't relevant to the subject. Well, you have to talk about these things, because if you don't explain the subject, you don't explain why we need it says, what is the effect on the trees? Well, to understand trees, you see, this is the councillors whose understanding is quite shallow when it comes to things like this. Conservation of buildings, the tree, natural environment, trees, affected trees and the landscape. But why? Why do we consider effects on the trees of the landscape? Why do we want trees, and why do we like trees, and why do the trees matter? Right? Not just for breathing oxygen, not just for looking nice and ecology. It is part of the people who have grown up around them and with them. This kind of vision and insight is so deep. The type of people that are on the council, it's like scanning a barcode when you go to the supermarket. Beep, beep. It's like, it's just a tree, beep, a product. And this is the actual problem with humanity. This is the problem with these corporations. It's all profit, profit, profit and money. Now, it says on here, right, what the building or development will look like. Well, effect on neighbouring properties. Well, that's on also neighbouring properties, but on us as well. Effect on living conditions, that we've said. Government guidance and legislation, development plan policies, supplemental plan guidance and other planning policies. Well, development plan policies, what about the strategic planning department? Because as far as we know, when it comes to objections in particular, they say they don't want us to take other matters and applications into account, but you have to do. When you are making an objection to this authority, you have to assess, I'm making an application to this authority, an objection to an application to this authority. Is this a competent authority for me to make an objection to? Is this a trustworthy authority to make an objection to? Can this authority be trusted to handle my objection and competently process it with any integrity at all? Well, when it comes to, we have to draw evidence from other applications. Like, for example, in Murfield, with that industrial estate that the council were obsessed to get built, when all the people of the entire town with Teal's Garage petitioned multiple times and succeeded to block it, and then, you know, come back a number of years later, and then, we have to object to it again. And the people get sick and tired of it. That should be it. We want to get back to life now. It's not like a birthday when you have to blow your candles out every year. The reason people don't want something is because they don't want it, right? Why would you check again next year just to see if you change your mind? No, we're not going to change his mind. This is the village we live in. It's not tennis. But the big corporations, the big corporate entities, and, the council wanted this exciting new exclusive project, which totally writ off the entire village of Mirfield, the entire legacy and history of Mirfield, its identity all around Hartshead and Leeds Road with the Three Nuns roundabout area. They allowed that petrol station being built, which writ it off. Then the special protected area of land got scammed with the protected trees there, and John Cotton cut them down and built a car park, and I got the planning permission. The whole area was a special protected zone, a walled area with trees in it. The council cheated that with John Cotton's. I still want to prosecute the council for that. If I won the lottery, I need to, not just want to, I need to take criminal action against John Cotton's and the council for fraudulently processing that protection from Yorkshire Water and stealing those trees. Now, that has to be taken into evidence when we're considering these trees, because when I am looking at an objection to a council when it comes to trees, it's like a criminal in court. Has this person been convicted before? Have they broke the law before? He's a repeat offender, right? Has this council scammed planning before? Has this council made critical errors in planning before, like at Castle Hill? Yes, yes, and yes. Therefore, it's a repeat offender. It's repetitively offending over and over and over again because it cheats with the system. Now, it will try and tell you on here that can't be taken into account, and it's not something you can mention, which is another offence, further lying and offending on the rules and regulations. This is the problem. Comments on these things will not be taken into account. Are you ready for this? Issues covered by other legislation, such as licensing, building control, or health and safety. Well, didn't you just say what the building and development will look like? And look, development plan policies, supplemental planning guidance and other planning policies. Well, the development plan, surely when they put a development plan in, they have to check it to see if it's safe or not. If you put a development plan in and it's got policies around it, right, then surely the safety of the building, because a plan wouldn't be able to get put in and approved if it had safety issues. So why are they saying down here, right, the health and safety isn't taken into account? There's a contradiction. Absolute and complete rubbish. Private property rights, such as boundary or access disputes. So they're not going to be taken into account. Private property rights, such as boundary or access disputes. Well, being private. If it's private, then, there's unlikely, if it's not public land or public right of way through, then, it's private land. I can't see how it would affect private property rights, such as boundary or access disputes. Well, the thing is, right, they might try and use that for, if you've got a private property adjacent to it or opposite, what are your rights? Like, like your view and things like that. If you've got something that you like looking at, and so forth. But yet you're allowed to petition the council over anything. You can petition the council over any matter at all and get people to sign it. Like, you want, a view clearing or something. So half of these can be written off anyway, because if it's something you can petition to the council about, and then the thing is with these applications and so forth, when they're making decisions on planning, there's a certain amount of time to hear petitions. Oh, are there any petitions that are going around that are connected to this planning dispute or associated with it? And remember, all petitions that are concerning similar matters or matters that are on the same subject or subjects that are in connection with something are meant to be amalgamated. So when you've got the right to petition His Majesty's government and His Majesty's local council with the mace in the chamber over anything, right, including clearly an access dispute over a property. Now, if the access dispute over a property happens to be the same property in this planning order, then why couldn't you hear it in the hearing, in the council chamber hearing, if there are petitions to do with it? Because you've got a slot for petitions. Now, if you're saying those petitions are separate to the application, fair enough, but then this is misleading, you know. And why didn't it say in here? Why didn't it remind you in here what, you know, any other matters shall be, you know, addressed by petitions? Those private property rights, if you're private, like, for example, if it is a view or if it's going to affect your standard of living or even maybe even affect your health by distressing you and so forth, effect on living conditions. So, I mean, the effect on your living conditions, your medical right, the rights to happiness and the right to be healthy, you know, and your living, the condition of your living, which is your health and well-being of the things that you like around you and so forth. Right. If you got I could get a lawyer, and I could get a psychologist, and I could get a doctor, and I could get other professionals if I, you know, had as much money as these contractors when all the money and profits, building, planning approved. It's an aeroplane factory, another aeroplane parts factory, and another aeroplane parts factory. Now they're moving aeroplanes over the top of us and moving the flight paths over the top of us. Now I'm getting distressed, right? And I'm having to complain to Ben Wallace, the Secretary of State for Defence, because I'm being harassed by these aeroplanes. That's affecting my health and well-being, you know. But they're making millions. What do they do with their millions? Build more factories. If we had $1 million, what could we do to hire psychologists and write actual professional legal cases against this council, which could write off this entire form? Because these are actually contradicting each other. The person who's written this form out is either not that intelligent or they're doing it on purpose, because they're cancelling each other out, some of these, right? The developer's morals, motivation, or activities elsewhere. Well, you know, this is what Extinction Rebellion are talking about and Just Stop Oil to do with this whole Black Rock Vanguard ownership thing. Well, for that, right, you're meant to be objecting against one site, against this certain site, right? But if you live in an area and all the things that you like and love about your area are disappearing because of planning applications getting approved by the council one by one, and it is affecting your health and well-being, right? And it's affecting your standard of living because there's nothing left in the area anymore, particularly that whole Incora at Leeds Road, which is completely and totally written off, you know, that is the killer thing. And it's symbolic. The developer's morals, motivations, or activities elsewhere. Well, the private and personal opinions of the applicant, right, of the person who's developing something, right, true, themselves, they've got opinions, right, and views. Their opinions and views are anything to do with the application. But if they have done some activities elsewhere, for example, what if the developer themselves, right, has scammed other places, like at Castle Hill, Or, you know, like at John Cotton with the Yorkshire Water when they cut those trees down in that car park there. And what happens if these people are either on the same political party or group or so forth, and they're known to have got critical errors and so forth? It's like in court with criminal gangs, you know. Are these people repeat offenders? Now, in court, you have to take it into account. You know, you have to take into account if they've got a record of, you know, of issues. If they've got a record which they've, you know, done things before wrongly. And with these planning issues, planning applications and so forth, if someone happens to be found out to own other companies or businesses and they've had issues with planning before, then it is relevant, because that questions the integrity of their application. The application's integrity is under question. But it's not just that, though. The council, right? This is the main point, actually. The council now, the Labour Council, we know very well, has got and is running the whole thing through a strategic plan. It's got a plan of how it wants. So they call it the blueprint. It's called the Huddersfield Blueprint, and they've promoted it all over town, even though the council aren't supposed to be allowed to influence the electors. They've spent loads on advertising to get us to go along with it and say they're doing it, yet then after they've put all this advertising up, then they ask us to do the consultations on it, and then, surprise, surprise, the consultations get put through, right? And then the application gets approved. Everything the council's doing is all geared towards a master plan. So that means all the separate things in Huddersfield aren't separate, because the new health centre, the cultural quarter, the university, and the attempts at Castle Hill, and then all of the bike lanes, it's all one plan. It's actually one thing, and that is a strategy plan. And the thing is, with the strategy plan, they collaborate and coordinate with private developers like Darren Smith Builders, who they give awards to when they provide them with loads of houses, and they didn't he do well. And McDonald's and so forth. Oh, yeah, we're planning a big retail park on Leeds Road with a B&Q and a cinema and KFC and McDonald's. Now, that's part of the council plan, because you don't get to... when they build that industrial unit, half of them aren't even sold yet, although they'll tell you that. But then, you know, it just turns out that it's the Odeon who are moving in, and then B&Q. Who would have guessed it, right? It's literally changing the entire area so much that it falls into this... The look of the area here, right? It says here, right? The effect on the character of the area. The effect on the character of the area, right? The effect of the character of the area. So when you're affecting the character of the area, right, you're changing the character of the whole area's feel of it and the dynamics of it and possibly the history of it and how people feel about it, right, is affected, right? But it says the area. It doesn't just say the site. Notice that it doesn't say changing the character of the building. By the building being changed in character, it affects how you see the whole road and the whole street, right? Yet down here, it's saying developers' morals, motivation, or activities elsewhere. Well, elsewhere could be in the area. The activities of the developer could be in the area, right? Because if we find out and know they've been building other things and they're involved or shareholders in developments in the area that have affected the area down the road or the area here opposite or around it, then it's affecting the area. Now, when it says elsewhere, it's trying to make you think that, not this property. But back up there it says, how are things affecting the area? Now, if something elsewhere, but close by, not the property in question that you're objecting to, right? as affecting the area. Leeds Road, industrial estate affected the area. Imperial Chemical Industries affected the area. Incora is affected the area. You know, the whole of Kingsgate has. In fact, one of the newspaper headlines recently was, you know, we're going to make this town a city. Right? They wanted to try and make it into a city. Now, if that doesn't affect the character of the area that's got two ancient sites there, one which has been built directly on top of in 1954, with a letter D for Dunce on top of it, in line with the Labour Party taking over from an independent voted area, then, you know, the council have strategic planning. The businesses have strategic planning too. Now, the council consider their blueprint one plan. It's one thing, right? Yet now, on here, they're claiming that if you've got a developer, if a developer happens to have a strategy or a plan, which is a little bit more spread out, shotgun blast, that can't be taken into account. Yet, the council consider their blueprint one thing. Oh, this is what we're doing with this thing, the blueprint, right? Which is all tied in together with the new health centre, with the cultural heart, right? Now, if that ain't elsewhere, but when we want to comment on something or we want to object, we don't take elsewhere into account. But yet, when the council are doing their blueprint and asking for, consultation. Oh, yes, it's a part of the blueprint. You need this new health centre down by Leeds, Old Leeds Road because it's part of the blueprint. You know, we're getting the cultural heart within the university. Now this will fit in with it all. All right, is that right, Kirklees Council? When you're doing your blueprint for the town centre, then we can take elsewhere into account. And in fact, that's why you should go with it. That's why you should want it, because of the rest of the place we've been doing, the rest of the things we've been doing. You must take you don't forget not to take those into account when you want the missing piece, the rest of our plan. But when we're objecting against the things up here by these trees, on this other road, oh no, we can't take into account anything else. But just a minute, isn't it part of your widespread blueprint? Isn't it one thing? If I won the lottery, I need to get criminal convictions out of this council. It must be criminal. It has to be criminal. Each individual councillor needs criminal action against them. And the person who writes this website, the legal team at Kirklees Council, the people who run the petition site, all the dodgy, off-putting things on here, like how they set these forms up, which, makes you worry about, trying to scare people, well, we want my details on there, but then if you push the button, is it even going to be counted or not? Strategy. On Wiltshire Council, I'm running a petition to object to this, they're wanting to this, well, there were many legal cases successfully against this Stonehenge tunnel in Wiltshire, but yet the government are still doing it, I'm doing a petition on Wiltshire Council website for a referendum, a local referendum, and you can't even sign a petition unless you sign up to the website, which is ridiculous. Competition between businesses. Well, that is joke, because this is a thing, right? The developers' morals, motivation, or activities elsewhere. It actually turns out that the majority of these companies, the bigger companies now, are actually all to do with when you go into the shops now, the products, it's confirmed that all of these brands, when you walk into a supermarket or a shop, they're all those major companies in there, all of the cornflakes, the toothpaste, all of the chocolate bars you walk past, and the crisps aren't in competition with each other because they're all owned by the same companies, who are owned by BlackRock and Vanguard. So none of the chocolate bars in the shop are in competition with each other. And I don't think that these corporate entities aren't in competition with each other, because they're all working together in a plan, because they've all been purchased and bought up by the same companies, which is what's happened with that Incora at Murfield with the aeroplane engine parts. In fact, the smaller businesses now are insignificant. There's another contradiction here. Competition between businesses. Well, if you find out the developers' motivations and activities elsewhere actually are the fact that they own multiple places and things, then you can't take competition between businesses into account, because there is no competition if they own multiple things. And the way Kirklees Council's operating, it's bought that Huddersfield hotel that there was lots of controversy over. The council's buying up half of the things, you know. There's definitely no competition between businesses when the council's buying up things and it owns it and it's got a blueprint for it all and it's controlling everything. It effectively is the council. And I don't think that a couple of objections from local people is going to stop this council. Although apparently in the newspaper, the head of the council stepped down the other day. Whether that's true or not, but that's what I read in the newspaper. All of these points and clauses here actually are misleading and trying to put you off, because actually, as long as it is relevant in some way to the property and it affects you in some way, if it affects you in where you live in some actual way, factually, if it affects you or your property, then you can mention it. And then when we're talking about, it says that the value of properties, perceived impact on property values, right? This is another con from the elite and the corporate elite. They actually don't give a diddly squat about the value of our properties at all, or our areas whatsoever. Yet, when these big corporate companies now, when the government is making and changing laws, these corporate entities and companies are actually suing the government. They're actually taking the government to court. If the government changes laws which affect even the projected profit. So these companies, right, they take the government to court because they've got millions, if not trillions, combined. And even if it may affect future profits because of certain legislation the government's changing, they sue the government. And that's not even profits that you're not sure of. I mean, people might just stop buying cornflakes what happens if everyone doesn't want to buy cornflakes anymore? You know, or the news says there's something wrong with it. You know, that you're going to sue the news. You know, these companies, these developers, if even the government is doing things that might affect their profits, their money, they're taking them to court. Now, Matt Kennard from Double Down News has investigated this abroad. Yet, this government and these local councils, right, have got the cheek to come on here, on these websites, and write advice like this, that says you can't comment on the developer's morals, motivation, or activities elsewhere, or you cannot just object. You cannot object against something, right, what a developer or even the council is doing, if it has an impact on your property value, your own property. You're going to lose money. But not only that, the value of the property is evaluated on, you know, if it's in a nice place or not. If the place is not going to be nice or not anymore. Are the people there positive and happy? This is it. What's affecting the crime level? You know, what's the point in being alive if you're not happy and you can't protect your area? Now, they're saying that developers or the council, you can't complain to the council, And this is effectively by petition, because really any consultation or any comments you give to the council or complaints through the monitoring officer or anything, any case to His Majesty's government is petition, no matter which pigeonhole it is, whether it's to Parliament or wherever. It's a petition of complaint to the monitoring officer. It's a petition of consultation. It's a petition of objection. Or it's a petition for a new park. Everything you do is case, try and information to the government, right? This is just wrong. I want this council to show us in the newspaper, publish in the Huddersfield Examiner, right? Publish to us in the Huddersfield Examiner the exact legislation in English law, the clause in the Act that these guidelines are based on, and let me read the Act, the clauses. Like in the 2011 local elections and petition rules, every sheet must have an electronic form of communication on it, the address, the signature. All petitions on the same subject must be amalgamated together, right? Why is it when you download change.org petitions that there are no email addresses? Because they don't give us them, because they claim data protection. Yet, if it's my petition, I have a right to all my data. It's my petition, I collected the signatures. I've got a right to the data. Where are the email addresses? It's digital. How can the council do it? Yet, Bernard McGuinn and many other councillors run petitions on 38 degrees and change.org. Yeah, they don't provide the electronic email addresses on many of them. It's against the 2011 legislation of local elections and petitions. This is the thing. Also, perceived impact on property. Well, there's nothing to be perceived or not. Either it does affect it or it doesn't. And, if it's, just dumps something in the area and ruins it, then it has. You know what? These political parties, the Tories and Labour, the leaders of these parties, they have formulated all these websites and clauses, and they're doing so with it's part of the strategic plan to fail us and make our objections invaluable. In fact, anything that could or would be effective in any complaint, in any objection which could be of value at all whatsoever, they're trying to say is invalid or not valid, or they can trick you into invalidating it by pressing a button. So, if you go anonymous, then it's not going to be counted anyway. We need people. You need to watch the Richard Bobes YouTube channel and find out what is happening. These councils and the Petitions Committee in government and the government are corrupted through to the core. And it matters, because I can't fill this complaints form in when I know this complaints form itself is corrupted. It's invalid. It's contradicting itself, and it's strategically and purposefully formulated in order to make the most impact on our objections, to make them weak and next to ineffective. That's the problem. And all of the other complaints about, or what people have been saying about, the trees are rot, they're not even native trees that they're planting, yet they've been pulling trees out around Greenett Park and other areas that apparently, are dying. Why are they dying? The council clearly hasn't been watering and maintaining them enough. Maybe those trees haven't been getting enough light from, because of all their building that they've had around them. So they've effectively give permission to kill the trees, which is ruining the character of the area. Then they make an excuse, the tree's dying, and pull it out. And then, up the road, they're wanting to plant non-native trees, which is, I don't know how they're going to grow when they're not made to design here. You know, not made, they haven't evolved to grow here. And my final point is this: with any petition to any council over any matter or any planning issue at all raised whatsoever, right? There is one objection which cannot be rejected, which is, I don't want it. I don't like it. Because if you get 26,000 signatures to this council on paper, right? And the title of the petition says, we don't want, this road updating. You don't need any of these, any reasons on this list. The petition is titled, we don't want this road upgrading. Sign here. We don't want it. Full stop. Signed. Done. Are there any petitions to present in relation to this application? Yes, one here. They don't want it. Oh, how many people have signed? 26,000. Oh, I'll have to have a referendum on it. Right? That's what it comes down to. The will of people. And at the end of the day, that is what counts in these applications. You don't want it. That is what matters. You do not want it. You either do or you don't. You don't need any reasons. And as for the Petitions Committee in Parliament, which is for the entire country, try filling in any of these details in here. There's not even enough space, right, in a national Great Britain Parliament of England, supposedly one of the most advanced countries in the world, one of the advanced governments in the world. There isn't even enough room in one of those petitions to even write these clauses here. You couldn't even write this one things of what you could even object about and not object about in there, because they've done it so you can only write 50 characters, and in the title you can only write about 20. And this is meant to be federal, casework to government, a case for something that's to be debated in the entire Parliament that could literally change the laws of England. You're not going to change the laws of England with an effective case on 50 characters. And they won't let you put any external links. Yet when it comes to local council, it's not a very strong objection. It's not a very strong objection unless you write a novel. The literally, you've got to have something, you've got to have one of these things you can complain about. Very technical, very, very technical, complicated complaint by, your appointed architect, or maybe, an ecologist or someone could write a 56-page paper on why we shouldn't have this upgrade. Splash the cash, right? Splash the cash out. All, developers, architects for Kirklees Council, write the papers, write the essays, write the blueprints and the development plans. There's a good, strong objection here, not just, we don't want it, right? Let's go to the Parliament website. Oh, now we're going to do something. I'm going to stop all these councils because I'm going to make a law so these councils can't have ridiculous flimsy forms like this that even you're volunteering to write your own comment off, after you filled it in. Because you can only write 50 characters. It would be all right, wouldn't it, if, you were limited to, 50 characters on here. Your views. Ridiculous. All this is absolute and complete tosh on this website. And I haven't used one swear word. I haven't used one bit of foul language at all whatsoever. This is tosh. And it's not just a matter of these trees in this council or this highway being updated. It is the Labour Party, the Conservative Party, these people, these political parties, this website that we're having to use, right? The whole thing. We've come to a place in time where we've got Marianne Williamson and Robert F. Kennedy. We have been infiltrated by corporate entities who have bought everything, and all our democratic process and procedures, they've colluded with the councils through strategic development of its contractors. What's the highways department? It's a contractor. What's the contractor? The contractor's corporate entity with loads of money. You know, who owns the contract? Never mind on here, right? Or it's saying, right, you know, never mind, right? You know, you can't mention the developer's morals, motivation, or activities elsewhere. But what, you know, what happens if the developer is owned by a company and that company owns the contractor who is the designated highways like Ross or someone for Kirklees Council? Now, wouldn't that be interesting? Because then all of the things getting approved by the council, if you find out that they're owned with or affiliated with the council, because when you've got a council contract, you're regarded as the council, right? Because actually, if we find out that Ross Highways or Balfour Beatty or Care is actually in any way or shape or form owned somewhere along the lines with the investors, with that company that's building aeroplane engines in Cora at Leeds Road, then we've got a problem, because we've got bias and corruption, like when you get, you know, Darren Smith Builder, who's been given all the planning approvals getting put through, and there's his nice little medal on the shelf and awards. These rules are written in order to protect the interests of this council's strategic development plan and its partners, and prevent us from even submitting. It's trying to stop you adding evidence that could be countered to prove that there is bias and corruption in the process itself. Now, if they want that matter to be dealt with separately with a monitoring officer or whoever, it is relevant. It's relevant because it means that the actual complaint itself, what's the point in making one if there is going to be bias? So this is my complaint. I ain't going to write it out. I'm going to put the link there. And, you know, I'm not going to put anonymous on there, and Kirklees Council won't like it. Click the top right of the screen on YouTube where it says CC in the corner, and you get a full transcript of my words, and you can highlight it all, copy paste, and then put it in a text file.